50 years ago, a group of activists set sail for a nuclear test zone. From that first campaign in 1971, Greenpeace grew into an international organization. As part of our 50th anniversary, we are inviting key figures from Greenpeace history to share reflections on 5 decades of changing the world. Rex Weyler was a director of the original Greenpeace Foundation and a co-founder of Greenpeace International in 1979.
There's a difference between a movement that sustains itself and an organization that sustains itself. So, to me, it's much more important that we have an ecology movement and a human rights movement forever than that we have any particular organization forever. If you look at historically at the social movements, think of the civil rights movements, think of the women's movement, think of the peace movement. These things have been going on for generations. And when we set out in the 1970s, our goal was to create an ecology movement, not necessarily to create an organization. And I think it's great that Greenpeace has survived for 50 years and can still be effective and helpful. But I think it's more important that the values that we stand for, that the movement, that the ecology movement, the peace movement, human rights movements endure, not the organizations necessarily. I'm very proud of the fact of, many people of my generation created a sense or sort of awoke a sense of ecology, and I think that's very important. But the campaigns itself, I'm extremely proud of the fact that we did the whale campaign in 1979 and we actually got a ban on whaling. I mean, that was a big moment for all of us. I feel like every day there's whales alive in the ocean because of efforts that we made. There's forests that are still standing because of efforts that Greenpeace has made and all of you have made. And I think every time any of us achieve anything like that, and anytime we have any success at all, we should feel very proud, because even if one patch of forest is left or one river is left, just keep in mind that there's our relatives are living in those rivers and in those forests, and that's significant to me. We were sitting around in our office one day, this is, I believe, in about 1978, and we read in the newspaper that they were going to bring an oil tanker into the inside waters of British Columbia, and they said it was just a test. The headline in the newspaper was, "This is just a test. We're bringing this oil tanker in to show that we can maneuver this oil tanker in the Salish Sea." And we were sitting around the office, and one of the people read this in the newspaper and said, "Hey, they're going to test a super tanker." And our office manager at the time was an older woman, older than all of us, very sweet. And she looked up and she said, "Well, why don't you guys do a test blockade?" And we thought that was hilarious. Yeah, let's do a test blockade. So we announced that afternoon in the newspapers and the radio in Vancouver, we announced Greenpeace announces test blockade against test tanker. And within 2 days, we'd launched a boat. We'd gone out there. We met the tanker in Juan de Fuca Strait. We stopped it dead cold in the water. We got arrested. They took us into jail. We told them in the jail, I said, "This is just a test. It's okay," and we were testing the handcuffs and so forth and so on. But we just kept this whole joke going the whole time. And I've always remembered that as one of my favorite campaigns, because it came from just a pure, interesting idea, and it was done quickly, and it was a success. One of the biggest lessons I learned is that our weakest link is always our own egos. Within the organization is to actually articulate these things and talk about how do we quiet our own egos so that we can actually be serving the movement rather than be trying to get something out of it. I don't have a formula for how to do that, except to build internal compassion and understanding. That is really important. Like, the structure won't matter if you don't build internal compassion. And that means really understanding each other and being okay with your differences and having differences of opinion about things. Really appreciate diversity, not just talk about appreciating diversity, but really accept it and fold it in. I really strongly urge every individual to really question their own motivations, their own ego. What are you trying to get out of this? What are you actually trying to accomplish? Because those conflicts, those personal wounds that we all have, can be the weakest link in organizing. I think we have to take some personal risks. I don't think, I think going back to the very beginning of Greenpeace, sailing a boat into a nuclear test zone, blockading the Russian whalers, blockading the toxic dumping in the oceans with the Zodiacs, getting barrels dumped on us. If you don't take some personal risk, I don't think people take you very seriously. So the purpose of getting arrested or the purpose of taking personal risk is to help you tell the story to people. The story is more than just the information and the data and the statistics. People need to see commitment. And I think when other people see commitment, then they feel that they can make a commitment. Eternal patience and love. And at the same time, know when to push. One thing to keep in mind is these corporations understand communication, and they have huge, massive billion-dollar budgets. They know how to tell us their story and try to control the narrative. So what the activist is doing is the counterforce, and the truth will prevail. This is one thing I feel very strongly with, is that corporations are spending billions, literally billions of dollars telling a big lie. And they have the money to tell that lie, but, they have to keep spending money to tell that lie. I mean, the truth just will endure, but we have to keep telling it. I think one of the most important things for an activist is just, if we don't give up, eventually we will win. If you think about women's rights and human rights and democracy and issues, these things are generational battles. So be patient and don't give up and don't stop talking. Activist work can be really difficult, and we're facing difficult challenges, and sometimes it's just so frustrating, and we're up against power structures that can cause us tremendous distress. And I think part of the secret to not burning out is to make sure you're doing things that you really love to do. You can't give your whole life over to activism. I don't believe that. And I don't believe the successful activists did that. I think you have to spend some time taking care of yourself. You have to spend time taking care of your family, of your friends, your community, because the amount of work that there is to do is infinite, and the amount of time you have to do it is limited. So you be careful and take care of yourself, number one, and take care of each other. Honestly, I put my hope in the natural world. I think humanity has massive lessons to learn before it can be sort of a source of hope. I actually believe that the natural world is so much bigger and so much more powerful than humanity, that it's our job as humanity to learn the lessons of the natural world and understand how the natural world works and get in sync with that, rather than humans trying to manage the natural world. That's my position on that.